I only cheated emotionally. That's what she claimed, standing there barefoot in our bedroom, her arms crossed so tightly across her chest I could see the veins in her hands trembling. Her voice cracked, but she forced the words out anyway, like if she said them firmly enough they'd sound believable. It wasn't physical, I swear. And maybe, just maybe, if I hadn't bent down to pick up what had caught the corner of my eye, a little glint of foil half buried in the carpet, I might have believed her. Maybe I would have swallowed the lie the way so many people in love swallow lies, telling themselves she'd never, she couldn't, not her. But there it was in my hand, a used condom wrapper, torn open, sticky, still warm from the weight of a lie too fresh to be forgotten under our bed. I turned it over in my palm slowly, like it was some kind of artifact dug up from the ruins of a life I thought was solid, and then I looked at her. She had that look in her eyes, the wide, frantic look of someone caught mid-performance, searching for the next line, the next excuse, the next way to spin the story so the man holding the evidence might still buy into the illusion. Emotionally, I said, my voice quieter than I expected. This is what emotional cheating looks like now. She flinched, her lips trembling. It's not what you think. That line. God, that line. The anthem of cheaters everywhere. And for a second I almost laughed. Because what could it possibly be, if not exactly what it looked like? I didn't throw the wrapper at her. I didn't yell. I just set it on the nightstand, as gently as if it were a piece of jewelry, or a love letter. And in that quiet gesture, I saw her crumble a little, because she realized something important. Rage she could fight against, but silence? Silence was lethal. Silence meant I was calculating, not reacting. And here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't always start with a scream. Sometimes it starts with a whisper. With a foil wrapper lying under the bed you shared. With the weight of a truth too heavy to ignore. That night, I didn't sleep. She tried to curl into me, to weep apologies into my shirt, to reach for my hand as if contact could stitch over what she had torn open. But I kept my arms stiff at my sides, my eyes on the ceiling. I let her cry, let her choke out lines about feeling disconnected, about needing someone to talk to, about how it never meant anything, and yet it meant enough for someone else's body to be in our bed. I thought about that condom wrapper all night. I thought about how it wasn't just proof of betrayal, it was proof of her disrespect. She hadn't even bothered to clean it up. That more than anything told me the truth. This wasn't the first time. You don't get sloppy on your first betrayal. Sloppiness comes with practice, with habit, with comfort in knowing you've gotten away with it before. The next morning she brewed coffee like nothing had happened. She smiled too wide, asked me if I wanted eggs, tried to chatter about weekend plans. I just watched her. Every word she spoke was like static in my ears. I wasn't listening to the words anymore. I was watching the lies forming on her lips, the way her eyes darted just a fraction too quickly whenever I stayed quiet. And that's when I realized something. I wasn't heartbroken. Not yet. I was awake. Betrayal has a way of shaking you awake from the dream you thought was reality, and once you're awake you can't go back to sleep. You start seeing the little things you ignored before, the late nights that didn't add up, the sudden care with her appearance on days she claimed to be too busy for me, the way she'd lock her phone face down on the table, always just out of my reach. I started replaying the last few months like a film reel, looking for the edits I'd missed, the scenes she'd cut out of the script, and the more I watched, the clearer it became. This wasn't new, this wasn't accidental, this was deliberate, but I didn't confront her again, not yet. Because screaming would give her power. Screaming would give her the chance to twist the narrative, to paint herself as the victim of my anger rather than the architect of her own betrayal. No, I chose something different. I chose patience. That day while she was out running errands, I went through the laundry. You'd be surprised what betrayal leaves behind in laundry baskets. Receipts tucked into jean pockets, a faint whiff of cologne that isn't yours, lipstick stains on a shirt she swore she never wore around anyone but me. I found them all. I started a notebook. Black cover, unmarked, hidden in the back of my office desk at work where she'd never find it. Inside I wrote down dates, times, details, credit card charges she couldn't explain, lies she told me, side by side with the truth I uncovered. I drew a map of her betrayal, each line connecting back to that single undeniable piece of foil I'd found under our bed. And with every page I filled I felt myself harden. The man who had once trusted her without question was gone. In his place was someone new, someone colder, sharper, more deliberate, someone who wasn't going to be the fool in her story anymore. At night she still whispered apologies into the dark, still tried to reach for me, still muttered about emotional needs and feeling invisible. I lay there, silent, eyes open, notebook in my mind filling with every word. Because here's the truth. You don't catch someone cheating and stop there. You don't hold the condom wrapper in your hand and call it enough. No, you keep digging. You keep watching. You keep collecting until the picture is so clear, so undeniable, that when the time comes to confront them, there's no room for gaslighting, no room for twisting, no room for escape. That was my plan. To let her dig her own grave. To let her think she still had me fooled. To let her believe the man lying beside her was still the same man she betrayed. But he wasn't. That man was gone the second I bent down and picked up that condom wrapper. And the man who replaced him, he wasn't here to beg for the truth. He was here to prove it. And this was only the beginning. The wrapper had changed me. That small stupid piece of foil, torn open, discarded, hidden under our bed, had become the line in the sand. Before it, I was the husband who trusted, who excused, who rationalized every odd glance at her phone, every work-late excuse, every cold shoulder at night. After it, I became someone else, someone who saw clearly, someone who had stopped giving her the benefit of the doubt and started giving her the space to hang herself with her own lies. She thought we were healing. That's the funniest part. She thought because I wasn't yelling, because I wasn't storming around slamming doors, because I still sat across from her at breakfast and kissed her cheek before she left for errands, that we were slowly working things out. She whispered at night about wanting to rebuild, about how I had to trust her again, about how it was just an emotional lapse. But I knew better, and knowing gave me a calm that unnerved her more than rage ever could. The first thing I did was watch her patterns. It's strange how predictable betrayal becomes once you stop denying it. She wasn't careful anymore, because she thought I was blind. She still locked her phone, of course, but she'd smile at messages that came through while we were sitting on the couch. She'd angle the screen away, thinking I didn't notice. She started showering in the mornings again, not at night. Tiny changes, subtle but noticeable. She never used to care about perfume on a Wednesday night, but suddenly she was spritzing herself before groceries. I started making notes. Not just in my black notebook at work, but in my head. Dates, times, excuses, and the details she overlooked. When she said she was meeting her sister, I asked which restaurant, then quietly checked her sister's social media later. No mention of dinner. When she said she was too tired to come home right after work, I drove past her office. Her car was gone. The more I checked, the more I confirmed. She wasn't just lying once or twice. She was lying as a way of life. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started digging deeper. I checked the credit card statements. Most of the charges were ours. Groceries, bills, gas. But sprinkled in were anomalies. Hotel bookings under generic names. Bars we'd never been to. A boutique clothing store receipt for lingerie I'd never seen her wear. I circled them all in red, photocopied the statements at work, and tucked them into the growing folder in my drawer. And then one night I followed her. She'd said she was meeting the girls for dinner. She kissed me goodbye, a little too brightly, heels clicking against the floor. I waited 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys and slipped into my car. I stayed far enough behind that she wouldn't notice, my heart pounding like a drumline. She wasn't heading toward any restaurant. She wasn't heading toward her sister's neighborhood. She pulled into a hotel parking lot on the edge of town. I parked a block away, far enough to see but not be seen. I watched her get out of the car, watched her straighten her dress in the reflection of the window, watched her phone light up as she typed what I could only imagine was, "I'm here." Then he appeared. Tall, broad-shouldered, confident. He kissed her before they even reached the door. And that was it. That was the moment I knew I had her. Not just in suspicion, not just in theory, but in fact. She wasn't just emotionally cheating. She wasn't just talking. She was living a second life. I stayed until I couldn't stomach it anymore, then drove home. I sat in the dark living room for hours, the clock ticking, the fridge humming, the silence heavy, and I thought about everything. About our vows. About the nights I worked overtime to make her dreams easier. About the way she used to look at me before all of this. And then I thought about that condom wrapper under our bed, the first careless clue in a long trail of disrespect. When she finally walked through the door, hours later, her hair messy, her lipstick faintly smudged, she tried to tiptoe past me, but I spoke from the shadows. "How was dinner with the girls?" She jumped, startled. "Oh, good. Really good. We talked for hours." I smiled in the dark. "That's nice. Did you have dessert?" She blinked. "What? Dessert?" I repeated. "Did you have dessert with them?" She laughed nervously. Yeah, we shared a cake." I nodded. "Sounds sweet." And that was it. I didn't press, didn't accuse. I just let her walk upstairs, her heels clicking like gunshots in the silence. Because I knew every lie she told was another stone in the foundation I was building beneath my case. The next weeks were a study in control. I gathered more. I took photos of her car in that hotel parking lot. Screenshotted her errand times against her credit card swipes. I even recorded a few phone calls when she thought I wasn't home. Half-whispered giggles, pauses too long to be innocent. The folder grew heavier. So did my calm. Here's what betrayal teaches you. It forces you to grow a second skin. The man who once reacted with hurt became the man who observed with patience. And the more I observed, the more I realized something important. This wasn't just about me and her. This was about who I wanted to be when the truth finally came out. Did I want to be the man who shouted and cursed, giving her the chance to say I was unstable? Or did I want to be the man who laid out the truth like a surgeon, precise and undeniable? I chose the surgeon, but there was one more piece I needed. Proof she couldn't argue with. Not receipts, not suspicions, not hotel bookings. I needed her caught in the act.
So I set a trap. I told her I had a work trip coming up. 2 nights out of town. She seemed almost relieved, like the universe had handed her a gift. She kissed me more sweetly than she had in months, packed my bag herself, even slipped a note inside. "I'll miss you." I smiled, kissed her, and drove away. Except I didn't. I checked into a cheap motel across town, waited until evening, then drove back. My car hidden 2 streets over, I slipped into the shadows of my own house. Through the bedroom window I saw the light on. I saw her silhouette, and then I saw another. He was in my house. I clenched my fists until my knuckles ached, every instinct screaming to storm in. But I didn't. I lifted my phone instead. Click, click, click. Each photo a nail in the coffin of her lies. They laughed, they kissed, they touched. In my bed. The same bed where she once swore she loved me. And I watched, not out of masochism, but out of necessity. Because I knew that one day soon I'd lay these photos down in front of her, and she'd have nowhere to run. I left before I saw too much. Before the rage boiling inside me spilled over. I drove back to the motel, sat on the bed with my phone in my hands, and stared at the evidence. Not just the proof of infidelity, but the proof of who I'd become. The man who didn't react, but who prepared. That night, I slept better than I had in months, because I knew the end was coming. And I was the one writing it. The strangest part about betrayal isn't the lies, or even the act itself. It's the way everything keeps moving around you, like the world doesn't realize it's collapsed. I'd walk through the grocery store and hear people laughing, planning dinners, pushing carts full of cereal and milk, while all I could think about was the photos in my phone, the folder in my desk drawer, the foil wrapper under my bed. The evidence was there. The truth was carved into every detail of her careless trail, and yet the world spun on, as if my marriage wasn't rotting quietly from the inside. I knew the confrontation had to come, but I wasn't going to rush it. That's what she expected, an explosion. She thought I'd shout, throw things, call her names, and in doing so hand her the role of victim. I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. No, I wanted precision. I wanted a stage. I wanted her to understand, deeply and completely, that every choice she made had led to this moment, and there was no talking her way out. I chose a Saturday, a day when neither of us had excuses to be elsewhere, a day when the light was soft, and the house was quiet. I woke early, made coffee, sat at the table with the folder in front of me and waited. She came downstairs in her robe, hair messy, smiling like it was just another weekend. She kissed my cheek, poured her coffee, and sat across from me. That's when she noticed the folder. "What's that?" she asked, casual. I slid it across to her. "Open it." She hesitated, then flipped it open. Her eyes skimmed the first page. Receipts, hotel charges, restaurant bills. I watched the color drain from her face. She turned to the next page. Photos. Her car parked outside a hotel. A screenshot of a message. Her hand trembled as she turned again. More photos. Her and him, laughing at a bar. Then the final ones, the shots I'd taken through our own bedroom window. She slammed the folder shut, her face pale, her lips pressed tight. "You've been spying on me," she hissed, as if that were the crime. I leaned back, calm. "I've been documenting. There's a difference."
Tears welled in her eyes. "Please, it's not what it looks like. That line again. That pathetic, insulting line." "Really?" I said softly. "Because it looks exactly like what it is. You, him, our bed, my house, my life, and you, throwing it away one lie at a time." She buried her face in her hands, sobbing. "It was a mistake." "No," my voice cut sharp, and she froze. "A mistake is forgetting to lock the door. A mistake is missing a meeting. What you did, that's not a mistake, that's a decision, over and over again. And the worst part isn't even what you did with him. It's the way you looked me in the eye every night and thought I was stupid enough to believe you." Her sobs grew louder, her shoulders shaking. "But I didn't move. I didn't reach for her. I let her drown in it. You told me it was emotional," I said. "You told me he was just someone you talked to. Was that before or after you used protection in my bed?" She winced like I'd struck her. "Please, no," I said, leaning forward. "You don't get to plead with me. You don't get to insult me with half-truths. You've been erasing me from your life one hotel receipt at a time. Now it's my turn to erase you from mine." I pulled out one last envelope from under the folder. This one held a copy of the prenup. Her eyes widened. "You remember this?" I asked. "You fought me on it, said it was unnecessary, said you'd never betray me, but I insisted. And now, Clause 14, infidelity. You lose your claim to the house, to the accounts, to everything I've built. You walk away with nothing." Her mouth opened, but no words came. Just tears, silent and hot. "I already filed," I said. "The papers are in motion. Monday morning you'll get the notice. All that's left for you now is to pack." She collapsed against the table, sobbing into her arms. I stood, collected the folder, and walked away. But that wasn't the end. The aftermath was messier than I'd imagined. She begged at first, called me dozens of times a day, left voicemails filled with apologies and excuses. She showed up at my office once, mascara streaking down her face, pleading for another chance. My coworker stared as I walked right past her without a word. Then came the anger. Messages accusing me of being cold, of being cruel, of setting her up. She said I was manipulative, that I had no right to spy on her. I deleted them all. And then, finally, came the silence. Our friends, of course, found out. Betrayal doesn't stay secret, not when it's dragged into the light. Some sided with her, claiming I was too harsh. But most shook their heads, murmured things like, "I can't believe she'd risk everything." People talk. They always do. But I didn't care. What mattered was this. I was free. Free from the constant doubt, the gnawing suspicion, the late nights staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was imagining it all.
free from the weight of loving someone who had already given herself to someone else. I moved into a smaller place at first, just me and the quiet. It was strange those first few weeks, eating dinner alone, hearing the creak of the house without her footsteps. But the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was clean, pure, and little by little, I started to rebuild. Not with someone new, not yet, but with myself. I went back to the gym. I picked up hobbies I'd abandoned years ago. I called old friends I hadn't seen since she pulled me away from them. I laughed again. Real laughter, not the forced kind that covered up suspicion. One evening, months later, I found that black notebook at the back of my drawer. I flipped through the pages, dates, times, receipts, notes written in angry, shaking handwriting. It felt like reading the journal of a man I used to know, someone who'd been trapped in a web of lies. I closed it, set it in the trash, and walked away. Because the truth is, betrayal doesn't define you. It shapes you, yes. It scars you, absolutely. But it doesn't get to decide who you become. That part is yours. And me, I became the man who refused to be fooled. The man who turned silence into strength. The man who walked away not broken but rebuilt. She, on the other hand, became a whisper, a lesson, a story I tell not with bitterness, but with clarity. Because the condom under the bed wasn't just proof of her betrayal, it was proof of my awakening. And sometimes, the ugliest truths lead to the clearest freedom.